used to believe that friendship was the safest place to rest your heart. That no matter how cruel the world could be, there was always that one person who would never hurt you. For me, that person was Clara. She was the kind of friend who could light up an entire room just by walking into it, the kind of person everyone wanted to be around, and somehow, out of everyone, she chose me as her closest friend. For years, I thought that was a blessing. Now, I realize it was a curse wrapped in a pretty package. The day I met Clara, my life was so ordinary it almost felt invisible. I had just turned 22 and had been invited to a friend's birthday party. It wasn't a close friend, more like an acquaintance, so I almost didn't go. I remember standing awkwardly near the snack table, my arms crossed tightly across my chest as I scanned the room full of people who seemed to belong in ways I never had. Music pulsed, people laughed and swayed to the rhythm, and I felt like an intruder at someone else's joy. Then, through the sea of strangers, I saw her, Clara. She moved like a spark of life itself, tall and graceful, her caramel-toned skin glowing under the warm light. Her long, straight black hair flowed over her shoulders like a glossy curtain, and her laughter was like music that seemed to hush the room for a split second. I tried not to stare, but before I could look away, she caught my eyes and smiled. A warm, genuine smile that seemed to say, "You belong here, with me." She walked over with confidence, holding 2 cups of punch. "Hey, you look like you're hiding back here," she said with a laugh, handing me one of the cups. "Come on, let's dance. Life's too short to stand in the corner." I hesitated, stammering, "Oh, I'm not really a dancer." "Well, lucky for you, I am," she replied, grabbing my hand before I could protest. And just like that, I was swept into her world. That night, we laughed until our cheeks hurt. We talked about everything, our childhoods, our dreams, our worst fears. She told me about growing up with a strict father and an absent mother, about how she always felt like she had to fight for love and attention. I told her about my quiet upbringing, my parents' modest home, and my desire to one day run my own business. From that moment, we were inseparable. We shared clothes, secrets, and late-night takeout dinners. Clara had this way of making me feel like I was the most important person in her world, like nothing else mattered as long as we had each other. Looking back now, I see how dangerous that feeling was. When my old roommate got married and moved out, Clara offered to move in with me. At the time, it felt like the perfect solution. 2 best friends living together, supporting each other through the chaos of early adulthood. I couldn't have imagined a better scenario. I didn't know then that I was welcoming a wolf into my home. Back then, I was working at a small marketing firm by day, but my real passion was my online fashion store. I had started it as a side hustle during college, selling handmade clothing and curated pieces I sourced from local designers. Every night after work, I would come home, sit in front of my laptop, and pour my heart into building that little store. Clara was always there, sitting across from me at the kitchen table, offering encouragement as I packed orders late into the night. "You're amazing, you know that," she would say, watching me tie ribbons around packages. "One day this store is gonna blow up and everyone will know your name." I would laugh, shaking my head. "I hope so, but right now it just feels like a dream." "Well, let me dream with you," she would reply, her voice soft, her eyes shining with sincerity. Clara became my rock. She was the one who stayed up with me during my darkest moments, the one who cheered the loudest when I made my first big sale. When the business finally started making enough money to rival my day job, I decided to take the leap and go full-time. Clara celebrated with me like it was her own victory. As the business grew, so did my trust in her. I hired her as my assistant, gave her access to my accounts, my home, even a credit card for emergencies. I thought I was rewarding her loyalty. I thought I was sharing my success with the person who had helped me build it. But looking back now, I realized that was the moment I signed my own downfall. There were signs, small cracks in the perfect image I had built of Clara. I remember the first time I noticed something strange. She had borrowed one of my favorite necklaces, a delicate gold piece I had saved up for months to buy. When I asked for it back, she waved her hand dismissively. "Oh, relax. It's just the necklace. I'll bring it back soon." She never did. Then there were the late nights when she would come home smelling of expensive perfume, her hair slightly disheveled, a strange gleam in her eyes. "Clara, where have you been? I've been worried sick," I said one night, unable to hide the frustration in my voice. She rolled her eyes. "I don't have to tell you everything I do, okay? I'm not a child." I backed off, feeling guilty for even asking. Clara had this way of making me feel like I was the one who was overreacting, like I was paranoid or controlling. I told myself these were minor things, the kind of normal ups and downs every friendship went through. After all, wasn't this what best friends did? Forgive, forget, and move on? One night, I came home practically bursting with excitement. My business had just landed a huge deal, one that would take us to the next level. I rushed through the door, eager to share the news with Clara. "Clara, you won't believe this. We just signed the contract. This is huge for us," I shouted, unable to contain my joy. She was sitting on the couch, her phone in her hand. She looked up slowly, her expression unreadable. "That's great. Really great." I froze. Something about her tone sent a shiver down my spine, but I pushed the feeling aside, telling myself she was just tired or distracted. The next morning, everything fell apart. I woke up to a barrage of notifications. My bank account had been frozen, my email locked, credit cards declined, my phone buzzed with call after call from creditors demanding payment. Panic surged through me. I immediately called my bank, praying it was some kind of mistake. "Miss, are you sure you haven't been making these withdrawals?" the bank manager asked calmly. "The signature matches yours, and the ID presented was, well, it was you." My heart stopped. "What do you mean, me? I didn't authorize anything." "I'm afraid, ma'am, that from our perspective, it appears you did," he said sympathetically. I hung up, my hands shaking. My mind was racing as I rushed home, my breath coming in short, ragged gasps. When I flung open the door, my heart plummeted. The apartment was empty. Clara's clothes were gone. My laptop, gone. Even family heirlooms, gifts from my grandmother, were missing. On the kitchen table sat a single folded piece of paper. My hands trembled as I picked it up and read the words scrawled across it. "Don't try to find me. This is my life now." My knees buckled. I sank to the floor, sobbing, the note crumpled in my fist. The woman I trusted most had stolen everything, not just my money, but my identity, my reputation, my entire existence. The days that followed were a blur of confusion and despair. I went to the police, clutching what little evidence I had, but they looked at me with skepticism. "Ma'am, are you sure you didn't authorize these transactions yourself? Identity theft cases can be very tricky." "I'm telling you, it wasn't me," I cried. "My best friend, Clara, she's the one who did this. She has access to everything. She knows all my passwords, my social security number, everything." The officer sighed, scribbling notes on his pad. "We'll look into it, but you need to understand, without solid proof, there's only so much we can do." Solid proof. How was I supposed to get proof when Clara had erased me so completely? She was out there living my life, using my face, my name, while I was left to drown in the wreckage. Friends I had known for years began to distance themselves. Some even whispered behind my back, wondering if maybe I was the one lying. After all, Claire was posting pictures on social media of herself smiling, traveling, enjoying life. To the outside world, she was me, and I was no one. I lost my home when I couldn't pay rent. My business crumbled without access to accounts and resources.
I slept on park benches some nights, huddled under thin blankets, trying to figure out how everything had gone wrong. One cold night, as I sat on a splintered wooden bench, tears streaming down my face, something inside me broke. In its place, a new feeling rooted, cold, calm, and razor sharp. If Clara wanted my life so badly, then I would take hers.
That night on the cold, splintered bench was the night I buried the version of myself that was naive, trusting, and fragile. The woman who sat there shivering in the darkness died quietly, and in her place, a new version of me was born, one who would stop at nothing to take back what was stolen. Clara thought she had destroyed me, but she had only lit a fire I didn't know I carried inside. The first step was survival. I had no money, no identification, and nowhere to go. My family lived far away, and I couldn't bring myself to face them. How could I explain that my best friend had taken my entire identity and left me with nothing? The shame was almost as suffocating as the betrayal. For weeks, I drifted between homeless shelters and temporary gigs, cleaning offices late at night or washing dishes at a grimy diner. It was humiliating, but it gave me just enough to buy food and keep breathing. Each night after my shift ended, I would find a quiet corner and plan. I stole free Wi-Fi from coffee shops, using borrowed devices to search for Clara. She was careful, I'll give her that. She didn't use her real name, my name, in places that could easily trace back to her, but she couldn't resist flaunting her new life online. The pictures were subtle at first. A glass of champagne at a rooftop bar, a designer handbag resting casually on a cafe table. But then she got bolder. Selfies in exotic locations, expensive clothes, lavish dinners. She was living my dream, and every image was like a dagger in my chest. I studied each photo obsessively, noting the details others would overlook. A street sign reflected in a shop window, the logo of a hotel etched into a wine glass. Slowly, a map of Clara's movements began to form in my mind. I started to learn her habits, her favorite spots, even the people she was spending time with. But I knew watching from a distance wouldn't be enough. If I wanted to reclaim my life, I had to become someone new. The old me was dead, remember? Clara had seen to that. One night, after weeks of saving, I bought a cheap prepaid phone and used it to create a new identity. Not just a fake name, but an entirely new persona. I taught myself how to navigate the shadows, how to blend in and disappear when needed. I practiced altering my voice, my walk, even my facial expressions. If Clara could steal my identity, I could steal someone else's. It was terrifying at first, but also liberating. For the first time, I understood the power Clara must have felt. With my new identity, I managed to secure a slightly better job. Nothing glamorous, just office work that paid under the table. It gave me stability and, more importantly, access to resources I could use to track Clara more closely. It was during this time that I learned Clara hadn't just stolen my money and possessions, she had stolen my reputation too. I overheard two former clients of my fashion store talking in the break room one afternoon. They didn't recognize me, of course. "Did you hear what happened with that girl? The one who ran that online boutique?" One of them whispered. "Yeah, apparently she was scamming everyone, taking orders and never delivering, running off with people's money. Total fraud." My stomach dropped. Clara hadn't just taken my identity, she had used it to destroy my name. All the years I had spent building my business, my relationships, my dreams, gone, erased by her lies. That night, I stared at myself in the cracked mirror of my tiny rented room. My face looked hollow, my eyes sunken, but there was a fire there now. Clara wanted to erase me? Fine, I would become invisible. I would watch her, study her, and when the time was right, I would strike. The first real breakthrough came by accident. Clara posted a picture of herself at a lavish party wearing a shimmering silver dress I'd once admired in a boutique but couldn't afford. In the background of the photo, barely visible, was a reflection of a distinctive chandelier. I recognized it immediately. It was from a well-known upscale hotel downtown. The next evening, I went to that hotel, dressed in my new persona's best outfit. My heart pounded as I scanned the lobby, searching for her. And then I saw her. Clara stood near the bar, laughing with a group of wealthy-looking men and women. She looked radiant, her hair perfectly styled, her makeup flawless. She was wearing my smile, the one I used to have before everything fell apart. I ducked behind a pillar, watching her. Rage bubbled inside me, but I forced myself to stay calm. I wasn't ready to confront her, not yet. Instead, I observed. I noted how she interacted with people, the way she charmed them effortlessly. I saw how she slipped away to take private phone calls, her expression shifting from sweet to calculating in an instant. Over the next few weeks, I followed her discreetly. I learned that she had insinuated herself into a wealthy social circle, passing herself off as a successful entrepreneur. My business, my story, my life. But Clara wasn't just using my name for status. She was also running schemes, conning investors, manipulating friends, and blackmailing those who got too close to the truth. She was building an empire on lies, and she was doing it with the skills and trust she had honed by being my best friend. I realized then that taking my life back wouldn't be as simple as exposing her. Clara was too smart, too slippery. If I went to the authorities without undeniable proof, she would turn the tables on me just as she had before. No, if I wanted to win, I had to beat her at her own game. Step by step, I began to dismantle her world. It started small. A whispered rumor here, a subtle nudge there. I created anonymous accounts and fed bits of information to people in her circle. Tiny seeds of doubt that would grow over time. Did you notice how Clara never talks about her family? Weird, right? Almost like she's hiding something. Funny how she always pays in cash. Makes you wonder where the money comes from. People are naturally suspicious. Once those seeds were planted, Clara's perfect facade began to crack. At the same time, I worked to rebuild my own life in secret. Using my new identity, I started a small online shop. Not as glamorous as my old business, but enough to generate steady income. Every dollar I earned went toward my plan. One night, while tailing Clara, I overheard a conversation that made my blood run cold. She was meeting with a wealthy investor, a man who seemed deeply infatuated with her. "Once the merger goes through," he said, "we'll have access to millions." Clara smiled, leaning closer. "And no one will ever suspect a thing," she purred. My heart raced. Clara was planning something huge, something that could make her untouchable. If she succeeded, I might never be able to stop her. I knew I had to act fast. The next day, I dug through public records, old contacts, anything I could find to connect Clara to her past crimes. Piece by piece, a picture emerged. She had been doing this long before me. I wasn't her first victim, just the one she had gotten closest to. Armed with this knowledge, I began to craft the final phase of my plan. I couldn't just destroy Clara. I had to become her. It was ironic, really. She had stolen my identity so completely that the only way to take it back was to steal hers. I studied her mannerisms obsessively, mimicking the way she spoke, the tilt of her head when she laughed, even the subtle way she held her wine glass. I practiced until I could pass as her without hesitation. Then I started appearing in places she had recently visited, dressed like her, behaving like her. I let people catch fleeting glimpses of Clara in 2 places at once. Confusion spread like wildfire. "Didn't I just see you at the cafe an hour ago?" Someone asked her at a party. "What are you talking about? I wasn't there." Clara snapped, her composure slipping. The more I sowed doubt,
the more paranoid she became. Finally, the night of her big deal arrived. Clara was hosting a lavish gala at the same hotel where I had first seen her with her new circle of friends. The room glittered with wealth and power, every detail meticulously planned. I slipped in unnoticed, wearing an exact replica of her silver dress, my hair styled just like hers. From a distance, we could have been twins. As Clara mingled with her guests, I began to move through the crowd, subtly introducing myself as her to key individuals. I planted carefully crafted lies that would unravel her scheme from within. By the time Clara realized what was happening, it was too late. "Who are you?" a furious investor shouted, pointing at me. "You told me this was legitimate." Clara spun around, her face pale. She stammered, I don't know what's going on." But no one believed her. The room erupted into chaos as accusations flew. I slipped away quietly, my heart pounding with triumph. Clara's empire was crumbling, and she didn't even know that I was the one behind it all. As I walked into the cool night air, I allowed myself a small, satisfied smile. The next phase of my plan was just beginning.
As I stepped into the cold night air, leaving the chaos of Clara's crumbling empire behind me, a strange calm washed over me. It wasn't relief, not yet. Relief would only come when I had taken back everything Clara had stolen, piece by piece, until she had nothing left. Tonight had been a victory, yes, but it was only the beginning of the end. I found a quiet alley near the hotel and pulled off the silver dress, hiding it in a bag I had stashed earlier. Underneath, I wore dark clothes that blended easily into the night. My heart was still pounding, adrenaline coursing through me. I had played my part perfectly, slipping in and out of conversations, dropping carefully crafted lies, sowing chaos like a farmer planting seeds. Now, those seeds would grow, and Clara would be left to reap the storm. From my hidden vantage point, I watched as the party guests spilled out of the hotel, their faces twisted with anger and confusion. Some were shouting into phones, others arguing heatedly with one another. And there, in the center of it all, was Clara. Her hair was disheveled, her eyes wild as she tried to convince them of her innocence. I couldn't hear her words, but I didn't need to. The desperation in her body language said it all. For the first time since she betrayed me, Clara was no longer in control. I turned and slipped away before she could spot me, a small, cold smile tugging at my lips. The next few days were a whirlwind. News of the failed gala and the suspicious circumstances surrounding Clara's business spread like wildfire. Investors pulled out, clients canceled contracts. Friends who had once adored her now whispered behind her back, questioning her motives. And I was there for all of it, watching from the shadows, carefully pushing events in the direction I wanted them to go. Every anonymous tip I sent to the right person, every piece of evidence I leaked at just the right moment, it all added up. Clara began to unravel. I saw her once, alone in a coffee shop, her usually flawless appearance marred by dark circles under her eyes and a haunted expression. She was frantically scribbling notes on a napkin, her hands trembling. "She's losing it," I murmured to myself, satisfaction curling through me like smoke. But I knew better than to underestimate her. Clara was a survivor, just like me. She wouldn't go down easily. So, I set the final stage of my plan in motion. Step 1 was to completely assume Clara's identity. I had been practicing for months, perfecting every detail, every nuance. I knew her speech patterns, her laugh, even the exact shade of lipstick she preferred. When I looked in the mirror now, I didn't see myself anymore. I saw Clara. Step 2 was to completely disappear as myself, entirely. It wasn't hard. After all, Clara had already erased me once. I simply finished the job. I closed the small online shop I had been running under my new persona, wiped all traces of my temporary identity from the digital world, and vanished without a trace. When people looked for me, the real me, they found nothing. And when they looked for Clara, they found me. The transformation was eerily smooth. I began showing up at places Clara frequented, interacting with her acquaintances, seamlessly stepping into her role. At first, there were a few raised eyebrows, a few moments of confusion. "Clara, you look different today," someone said at a charity brunch. I smiled warmly, tilting my head just like Clara would. "Just tired," I replied. "It's been a rough week." That was all it took. People see what they expect to see. As I solidified my place as Clara, I continued to dismantle her real life piece by piece. I drained the last of her accounts using the access she had given herself when she stole my identity. I canceled her credit cards, her memberships, even her phone service. She tried to fight back, of course. I could see her scrambling desperately to regain control, but it was like watching someone flail in quicksand. The harder she struggled, the faster she sank. One evening, I followed her to a meeting with one of her remaining allies, a man named Victor, who had once been her closest confidant. I stayed hidden in the shadows as their conversation unfolded. "You have to believe me, Victor," Clara pleaded, her voice cracking. "Someone is impersonating me, ruining everything I've built." "That's convenient, Clara. First you scam investors, now you claim there's a double running around. Do you think I'm an idiot?" "I'm telling you the truth," she shouted, slamming her hands on the table. "No," he said flatly. "You're done." He stood and walked away, leaving Clara shaking and alone. I waited until she left, her shoulders hunched in defeat, before slipping out the back door. Step by step, she was being isolated. Everyone she had manipulated, everyone she had charmed, they were all turning against her now.
The final step was to take everything she loved, just as she had done to me. Clara had one thing she cared about more than power and money: her younger brother, Daniel. He was the only person she had ever shown genuine affection for, the one person she hadn't completely lied to. When Clara first betrayed me, I hadn't planned to involve Daniel, but as my plan evolved, I realized he was the key to breaking her completely. Daniel had always liked me, well, the real me. He had trusted me, confided in me even when he distrusted Clara's schemes. So when I began appearing as Clara, carefully weaving myself into his life, it was surprisingly easy. I started small, a text message here, a phone call there, then casual meetups for coffee, heartfelt conversations about family and loyalty. I played the role perfectly, just as I had practiced. Over time, Daniel began to distance himself from the real Clara, convinced that she had changed, that she was becoming unstable. "I don't know what's going on with you lately," he said to her during one heated exchange I witnessed from afar. "You're different. I can't trust you anymore." The devastation on Clara's face was almost enough to make me pity her. Almost. The night everything came to a head was stormy, the rain pounding against the windows like angry fists. Clara showed up at Daniel's apartment, soaking wet and wild-eyed. "Daniel, you have to listen to me," she cried, barging inside. "There's someone pretending to be me, trying to destroy my life." Daniel looked at her with a mixture of anger and pity. "Clara, stop. You need help." "No, listen to me," she begged, grabbing his arm. "It's true. She's taken everything. My friends, my money, even you. Please, Daniel, you have to believe me." And then I stepped out of the shadows. "Daniel," I said softly, my voice perfectly mimicking Clara's, "don't listen to her." Both of them froze. Daniel's eyes widened in shock as he looked between us. Two identical Clara stood before him, one wild and desperate, the other calm and composed. "What the hell is going on here?" he whispered. "She's the imposter!" Clara screamed, pointing at me. "I'm the real Clara." I shook my head slowly, feigning sadness. "Daniel, you know me. You know I would never lie to you. She's trying to confuse you." "Liar!" Clara lunged at me, but Daniel stepped between us, holding her back. "Enough," he shouted. "I don't know what's happening here, but you need to leave, both of you." I let tears well in my eyes, playing the role of the wounded sister perfectly. "Daniel, please, don't send me away. I'm your family." He hesitated, then gently guided me behind him. "Go," he told the real Clara, his voice cold. "Go before I call the police." The look on Clara's face as she realized she had lost him forever was one I will never forget. She stumbled out into the storm, screaming curses into the night. That was the last time anyone saw her. Some say she fled the city, too ashamed to face the wreckage of her life. Others whisper that she met a darker fate, that her enemies finally caught up with her. I don't care. All that matters is that I won. In the days that followed, I fully stepped into her life. I rebuilt her empire, not as the con artist she had been, but as a legitimate, powerful figure. People looked at me with respect, admiration, even fear. The irony wasn't lost on me. Clara had stolen my identity to gain everything she wanted. In the end, I stole hers to reclaim it all. Sometimes, late at night, I catch my reflection in the mirror and barely recognize the woman standing back at me. She's strong, yes, powerful, untouchable. But she's also haunted. Because no matter how perfectly I play the role, I know the truth. I know that beneath the layers of deception and revenge, I'm still the girl who once believed in friendship, who once trusted someone so completely that she didn't see the knife until it was buried in her back. And I wonder, when people look at me now, do they see Clara or do they see the ghost of the woman I used to be? To anyone listening to this story, I want you to remember one thing. Trust is the most dangerous weapon in the world. It can build you up, yes, but it can also destroy you completely. So choose wisely who you let close to your heart. And if you ever find yourself betrayed as deeply as I was, don't just survive. Become the storm that no one sees coming.